Hello everyone, I'm Brandon if you're new to my channel, and in today's video I want to show you how to make a really simple orchid arrangement and share some of my orchid growing tips with you. I bought these orchids at Trader Joe's for $10.99, and I find that they have a really good deal on the orchids. You can get orchids at Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, the big box stores. You can also order them online or at your local nursery. But when you're out shopping for orchids, I want to show you a couple of things. This orchid here is an example of one that I normally wouldn't buy, but for the sake of today's video, I bought it so that way I can show you what to look out for. And it's not that this isn't a healthy orchid, it's just there are some things going on with it that I personally don't like. If the camera can pick it up, you can see how the leaves on this orchid is not as dark green and beautiful, I guess you could say, as this one. So that just tells me that this plant either got a little bit more light than this one, or there might be something wrong with it. Now, like I said, it might just very well be the plant, and maybe nothing's wrong with it at all. However, I just in general wouldn't pick this plant. I would definitely go for something that has much more beautiful leaves like this one. And another thing too, if you notice that I picked a bunch of orchids that weren't fully in complete bloom. So you can see they have a couple of buds still here. This right here is bud blast. And what that means is that this bud is unfortunately not going to make it. And the same thing on this plant too. Let me give you a closer up shot of this orchid, because all of these blooms on this bloom spike are going to fall off, and I want you to be able to recognize when you're shopping at the store not to pick this orchid. Other than its leaves are really beautiful, but the blooms, you're just not really going to get any. And I'll show you what to do, a trick, so that way you can hopefully still get some really beautiful blooms out of the plant. These are looking a little wrinkly and discolored compared to this bud here. See how it looks a little plump, and compared to this one where it has a little bit of a yellowish tone, and this one here where it's sort of wrinkly. So those aren't going to make it, and I will just chop them off. But yeah, that's something that you're going to want to be able to recognize when you're out at the store buying orchids. You're going to want to buy ones that have a couple of buds left, so that way you still have some flowers that are going to keep the bloom lasting, rather than just having one in full bloom and then you've just got a shortened amount of time for your display. Definitely find a nice pot that you like, that fits your style of your home, or just a pot that you like. No judgment here when it comes to style or design, and make sure it's wide enough to fit the plants. I got this pot off of Amazon, and it came with a set of 3, and I really like this. It's really minimal in design, and I'm just going to put these all into the pot together, and I'm going to use this super moss to cover up the areas so that way you don't see the roots in the plastic pots. As you're styling your orchids, you're going to want to keep in mind whether they are going to be seen from multiple angles or from one direction. For the sake of the video, I'm going to make it look good for the viewers, and but yeah, if this was going to be displayed in the center of the room, you're going to want the blooms to be all pointed out in different directions, versus, like I said, if I'm just showing you guys, or if I had this up against the wall, I'm going to try to have all the blooms facing one direction, if that makes sense. And as you're arranging, you want to be sort of gentle with the plants. You just really want to keep in mind that you don't want to break the bloom spike, because then that just shortens the life of the flowers and also the beauty in your home. You won't be able to enjoy it as long. This does take some finagling, and like, you need to be a little bit patient, because they are imperfect and they won't always they won't do exactly what you want them to do. So it's a matter of figuring out what's going to look good and what's going to be best for the plant. I think this looks great. I am loving the colors of all of these plants. They all have a little bit of touch of purple. Now I'm going to take this moss here and cover up all the little patches that you can see in between the plants. So that way it just looks more green and more put together. You can get this stuff at your local craft store. I'm just going to start off with a little bit at a time. And I'm just going to tuck it in to all the spots that I can see. The nursery pots. And it doesn't take very much at all. Here is the finished product. I think it turned out so beautifully. I'm going to be putting this on my coffee table to be enjoyed in my living room. As I was putting the moss around the plants, I thought of this idea where you can also elevate this arrangement by taking the stakes out and replacing them with like some really beautiful twigs or branches. And I think that would look really beautiful. As for these blooms that aren't going to make it, what I'm going to do is simply just snip them off. And I know it hurts, but they're not going to grow into anything. And as for this one, bloom spike that has several of the blooms that are going to make it, what I'm going to do is cut the bloom spike back to the flower that's open here. I'll turn it around this way so that way you can see, but I am just going to be cutting it like that. And I know it hurts, it sucks that these aren't going to make it, but there's no point in having that bloom spike on there. And actually cutting that bloom spike will hopefully trigger these nodes here where another bloom spike can start to grow. I'm also going to cut off these dead blooms here. Beautiful. Anyway friends, thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing and liking the video. Leave me a comment so I can engage with you. And I'll pop up a couple of videos that you can enjoy from now until my next upload. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye.